After a long period of striving together, enduring countless pressures and many moments when they nearly gave up halfway through, the day that Tiểu San and Hai had been waiting for had finally arrived. The restaurant they had poured all their heart and effort into building was now officially opening, in the joy and emotion of everyone around them. From early in the morning, the atmosphere outside had already become incredibly lively. Rows of congratulatory flower stands stretched from the entrance all the way inside, their vibrant colors making the entire street seem brighter than usual. The sound of conversations mixed with cheerful laughter echoed non-stop, creating a warm and happy atmosphere that made anyone passing by stop and look. Tiểu San stood right in front of the restaurant entrance, her hands gently clasped together in nervous excitement. Even though she had mentally prepared herself for days, the moment she truly saw the restaurant filled with guests coming to celebrate, she still could not avoid feeling overwhelmed with emotion. Wearing an elegant and graceful dress, Tiểu San continuously bowed her head to thank every guest who attended. Her eyes repeatedly looked up at the illuminated restaurant sign above, as if she still could not believe everything had finally become real. Perhaps only she and Hai truly understood how much sacrifice and effort it had taken for them to reach this day. Meanwhile, Hai barely had a single moment to rest. He constantly moved back and forth, checking every small detail inside the restaurant. From the tables and chairs to the guest reception area and even the way the staff welcomed people, Hai wanted everything to be as thoughtful and perfect as possible. Despite being so busy, the joy on his face was impossible to hide. Every now and then, he would glance up at the restaurant sign and quietly smile to himself. After so many days of throwing himself into work under endless pressure, he could finally breathe a sigh of relief, knowing that the dream he had always pursued now stood right before his eyes. Watching Hai busily moving through the crowded space, Tiểu San felt countless emotions rise within her. She remembered the times they had sat together calculating every tiny expense, the nights they stayed awake until late discussing how to renovate the restaurant or choose the right menu. There were moments when the pressure exhausted them so much that they almost no longer had the strength to continue. Yet in the end, they still held hands and overcame everything together. That was why today's grand opening was not simply a ceremony, but the result of all the relentless efforts both of them had made over such a long time. The first person to arrive early was Hai's mother. As soon as she stepped out of the car, she looked at the lively scene before her and smiled proudly. Seeing the restaurant crowded with guests coming to congratulate them, seeing her son and Tiểu San busily welcoming everyone, her eyes clearly reflected the sense of relief and happiness she had long hoped for. The moment Hai noticed his mother, he quickly walked over to carefully help her inside. "Mom, walk slowly. There are so many people here, I'm afraid you might trip." Although Hai spoke hurriedly, his voice was filled with care, making his mother smile warmly. She gently looked at her son before turning her gaze toward Tiểu San standing nearby. In that moment, she could clearly feel the happiness shining on the faces of the two young people, after all the months of hard work they had gone through together. "Seeing the two of you like this today truly makes me happy. All the hardships have finally paid off." Hearing those words, Hai only smiled softly, but the emotion in his eyes was unmistakable. He understood how much his mother had silently worried about him throughout the past months. Ever since he decided to invest in opening the restaurant, she had never pressured or stopped him, but instead quietly encouraged him so he could continue moving forward with confidence. Standing beside them, Tiểu San also felt deeply touched hearing those words. She stepped closer and politely thanked Hai's mother for always silently caring for and encouraging both of them throughout the journey. Tiểu San understood that without the trust and support of family, reaching this day would have been far more difficult. Hai's mother gently held Tiểu San's hand and smiled affectionately. "As long as the two of you live well together and continue supporting each other like this, I'm satisfied." That simple sentence made Tiểu San emotional. She turned to look at Hai and caught him gazing back at her. Without needing to say much, both of them understood that this very moment was what they had been waiting for all this time. It was not the glamour or the crowded celebration outside that mattered most, but the feeling that all their efforts had finally been rewarded with true peace and happiness. The atmosphere inside the restaurant became even more lively as more guests continuously arrived to offer congratulations. The sound of clinking glasses and cheerful laughter filled every corner, creating a warm and joyful scene. Hai and Tieu San kept moving from table to thank everyone for taking the time to celebrate with them. Even though both of them were busy, happy smiles never left their faces. Standing in the middle of the lively celebration, Hai once again looked around the restaurant and quietly let out a relieved breath. Every small corner of this place carried the effort and hopes that he and Tieu San had invested throughout the journey. And now, as everything officially began, what he felt most clearly was no longer pressure, but faith that the road ahead for both of them would still hold many beautiful things waiting in the future. Not long after, the atmosphere inside the restaurant became even more lively. Cheerful laughter and conversation could once again be heard from outside the entrance. A car had just stopped in front of the restaurant, immediately drawing everyone's attention. Trang and Tone stepped out together, carrying a large congratulatory flower stand beautifully decorated in a way that instantly caught everyone's eyes. The moment Tieu San turned around and saw them, her eyes widened in surprise because she had never expected the two of them to prepare something so thoughtful. As soon as Trang saw Tieu San, she immediately broke into a bright smile and quickly walked over to hug her warmly. "Congratulations to you too. The day you've been waiting for has finally arrived." Trang's excited voice made Tieu San laugh emotionally. She hugged Trang tightly as if trying to express all the feelings she could not put into words. The busy days of preparing for the grand opening had left her almost no time to think about anything else. But now, seeing the familiar faces of loved ones arriving one after another to celebrate with her, Tieu San finally felt the complete happiness of this special day. Standing nearby, Tone also could not hide his amazement as he looked at the lively scene before him. He glanced around the restaurant before laughing in admiration. "I have to admit, it really looks amazing from the outside, Hai. Back then when you talked about renovating the place, I couldn't even imagine it. But now that I'm seeing it in person, it's even better than I expected." Hearing that, Hai simply smiled comfortably. Today was probably one of the rare days when he truly felt relieved after such a long period of constant pressure from work. He stepped forward to take the flower stand from Tone's hands and happily replied, "It's nothing special. We just tried our best." Tone looked at the steady stream of guests walking in and out before teasing him again. "Later on, when the restaurant gets super crowded, remember to save a regular table for us. Okay? Don't become too famous and forget your brothers." His words made everyone around burst into laughter. Hai also laughed as he patted Tone on the shoulder in a friendly way. "Don't worry. You two can come anytime you want. This restaurant will always welcome family." At that moment, the atmosphere among everyone became incredibly warm and close. One cheerful conversation followed another, making all the tension and pressure from before seem to completely disappear on this special day. Tieu San stood there watching everyone happily chatting together, her heart filled with emotion. She understood that the most precious thing was not simply the successful grand opening of the restaurant, but the feeling that the important people in her life were still beside her, sharing this happiness together. Trang pulled Tieu San along to walk around the restaurant, constantly admiring every corner and repeatedly praising the interior design. From the lighting and tables to the way the entire space was arranged, everything created a warm and comfortable feeling. The more Trang looked around, the more she could clearly sense the dedication that Tieu San and Hai had poured into this place throughout the past months. "You can tell right away how much effort you both put into this place. Everything feels so warm and welcoming." Hearing that, Tieu San only smiled softly, though her eyes clearly showed emotion. She remembered all the nights she and Hai had spent sitting together reviewing every design draft and adjusting every tiny detail to make things more complete. There were days when both of them were so exhausted they could barely speak, yet they still encouraged each other to keep going. That was why seeing everyone genuinely love the restaurant now made Tieu San feel that every struggle they had gone through was completely worth it. While everyone was still chatting happily, another familiar figure appeared at the entrance. The moment Tieu San's mother stepped inside, she paused for a few seconds to slowly look around the entire restaurant. Her gaze moved from the lively atmosphere before her to Tieu San standing among everyone with a radiant smile on her face. In that moment, she could barely hide her emotions. Perhaps she was the one who understood best everything her daughter had gone through to reach this day. From the times Tieu San felt overwhelmed by work, the sleepless nights caused by exhaustion, to the periods when she constantly worried because everything was still unstable, Her mother had silently watched over her through it all. So now, seeing her daughter become more mature, have a stable career, and be surrounded by people who loved her, she finally felt at peace. The moment Tieu San saw her mother, she quickly walked over. Before she could even say much, she noticed her mother's eyes already turning red with emotion. "Mom, you're here." Tieu San's mother gently held her daughter's hand before looking around the restaurant once again, unable to hide the pride in her eyes. "The restaurant is beautiful. I know you've worked so hard during this time. Seeing you two achieve this today finally puts my heart at ease." Hearing those words, Tieu San could no longer hold back her emotions. All the feelings building inside her suddenly overflowed, making her eyes turn red as well. She tightly hugged her mother, wanting to hold on to this rare and peaceful moment for just a little longer. Amid the lively atmosphere filled with laughter and conversation, the embrace between mother and daughter made everything seem to pause quietly for a few seconds. Tieu San understood that what made her happiest today was not only the official opening of the restaurant, but also the fact that she could finally let her mother see a stronger and more stable version of herself after everything she had gone through. Tieu San's mother gently stroked her daughter's hair and smiled lovingly. She did not say much, but her eyes held all the pride and relief of a mother watching her child finally find happiness and stability. Standing nearby and watching that moment, Hai quietly smiled as well. He understood just how much the presence and encouragement of family meant to Tieu San on this important day. Meanwhile, the atmosphere inside the restaurant remained incredibly lively. Conversations and cheerful laughter blended together, creating a warmth that was difficult to put into words. Everyone continuously offered congratulations to Tieu San and Hai, while the two of them kept bowing politely to thank every guest who came to celebrate with them. After all the days and nights of relentless effort, this very moment felt like the beginning of a hopeful new chapter for both of them. While the atmosphere inside the restaurant remained lively and full of excitement, another familiar burst of laughter and conversation could suddenly be heard from outside the entrance. Tieu San's older brother, Hung, along with hoaica, had just arrived and immediately drew everyone's attention. Hung still carried his usual cheerful and energetic demeanor. The moment he spotted Hai from afar, he burst into laughter and quickly walked over to grab Hai's hand in a strong handshake. "So the day has finally come, brother-in-law. I knew the two of you would make it sooner or later." Hung's excited voice made Hai laugh as well. Perhaps today was one of the rare moments when Hai truly felt relieved after enduring such a long period of non-stop pressure. He gently tightened his grip on Hung's hand before replying with sincere gratitude in his eyes. "We really owe a lot to everyone for always encouraging us." Hung looked around the crowded restaurant and nodded with satisfaction. Ever since stepping inside, he had carefully observed every corner of the place. The warm atmosphere, neat decorations, and joyful energy surrounding everyone made him clearly feel the dedication and effort Hai and Tieu San had poured into this restaurant. "Seeing everything like this really puts my mind at ease. Now all that's left is for the business to keep thriving." While Hung continued chatting with Hai, hoaica had already become completely captivated by the restaurant's interior. She constantly held up her phone, taking photos everywhere, from the decorated entrance area to every little corner inside. The warm yellow lighting combined with the vibrant congratulatory flower stands made the grand opening scene look more beautiful than ever. "Oh my God, I absolutely have to take a ton of pictures today." As she spoke, hoaica pulled Tieu San over to stand beside her and continuously adjusted the camera angles. Looking at her phone screen, she could not stop admiring everything. "This restaurant is seriously gorgeous. Every angle looks beautiful." Hearing that, Tieu San simply laughed softly, though the happiness in her heart was impossible to hide. She looked around and saw all her family members and friends happily chatting together. In that very moment, she finally realized just how meaningful this day truly was. All the exhaustion and pressure she had carried throughout the past months seemed to disappear completely, as she saw everyone gathered here to celebrate with her. Laughter and cheerful voices echoed throughout the space, making the grand opening feel more festive with every passing moment. At every table, guests continuously raised their glasses to congratulate Tieu San and Hai. Some asked about their journey, others offered words of encouragement, while many happily shared funny stories that kept the entire atmosphere filled with laughter. The tension and anxiety from the preparation days were now completely gone. replaced only by warmth and happiness visible on everyone's faces. Hai and Tieu San constantly moved from table to table, thanking each guest for taking the time to celebrate with them. Even though both of them were already exhausted after hours of welcoming people non-stop, smiles never left their faces. For them, seeing all their loved ones gathered together on this special day was the most precious thing of all. Standing at a distance, Hung quietly watched his younger sister and smiled softly. He understood better than anyone how much Tieu San had struggled to reach this day. From someone who had once been overwhelmed by pressure from work and life, she had now become stronger, more confident, and capable of standing inside her own restaurant with eyes filled with happiness. Just seeing that alone was enough to make him genuinely happy for her. While the atmosphere remained lively and cheerful, Hai suddenly stepped forward and picked up the microphone, causing everyone to gradually shift their attention toward him. The conversations around the restaurant slowly quieted as all eyes turned in his direction. Standing in the middle of the restaurant, Hai looked around once before quietly taking a deep breath as if trying to steady himself. Then he slowly turned to look at Tieu San standing nearby. At that moment, his eyes could not hide the emotion and affection he felt. Having all of this today, I know it wasn't only because of me. The entire space suddenly fell silent for a few seconds. Everyone listened closely to every word Hai said. Thank you, Tieu San, for always staying beside me during the hardest times. If it weren't for you working hard with me throughout this journey, today would never have happened. Although Hai's voice was not especially loud, everyone could clearly feel the sincerity behind his words. He did not use complicated or overly emotional language, but that simplicity made the moment feel even more touching. The moment Hai finished speaking, the entire restaurant erupted into applause. Laughter and cheerful conversation soon filled the room again, though this time mixed with deep emotion. Everyone looked toward Tieu San with warm and heartfelt expressions as her eyes visibly reddened with emotion. Tieu San gently touched the corner of her eye before laughing through her emotions. Perhaps even she had not expected Hai to say those words in front of everyone. Looking into his sincere eyes now, she suddenly remembered all the difficult moments they had gone through together, encouraging each other little by little to finally reach where they were today. Sitting below, Hai's mother watched the two of them and smiled peacefully. Tieu San's mother also quietly nodded, her eyes filled with happiness as she saw her daughter finally find the peace she had always hoped for. In another corner, Trang stood beside Tone, unable to hide her emotions either. She quietly looked toward Tieu San before softly saying, "Seeing them like this really makes me happy." Hearing that, Tone nodded in agreement. He glanced around at the joyful scene before smiling gently. After everything they've been through, they can finally be happy. That sentence made Trang smile softly as well. The journey Tieu San and Hai had taken to reach this day had never been easy, but perhaps because they had overcome so many hardships together, this present moment now felt even more precious. At that moment, the restaurant remained filled with laughter, conversation, and happiness. The warm yellow lights reflected across the smiling faces around the room, creating a peaceful and heartwarming scene. Surrounded by the blessings of family and friends, Tieu San and Hai simply looked at each other and smiled quietly. For both of them, this was perhaps the most beautiful moment after everything they had gone through together. As the party slowly approached its final moments, everyone began gathering in front of the restaurant to take a commemorative photo together. The atmosphere was still incredibly lively, with laughter and cheerful conversations echoing non-stop, filling the entire space with warmth and joy. The vibrant congratulatory flower stand still lined both sides of the entrance, while the bright lights outside the restaurant glowed beautifully against the busy evening streets, creating a scene that felt both sparkling and emotional. Hoaica continuously called everyone to stand closer together, so they could all fit into the frame. Hung cheerfully pulled Hai toward the front, while Trang and Tone quickly stepped over to stand beside Tieu San. Hai's mother and Tieu San's mother stood in the center, and on every face could be seen the happiness and satisfaction after such a meaningful day. Standing beside Hai, Tieu San quietly looked around at everyone before smiling emotionally. Perhaps for her, the most precious thing was not simply that the restaurant had successfully opened today, but the fact that all the people she loved were present together to witness this important milestone. After all the hardships and pressure they had gone through, she could finally feel the sense of peace she had long been waiting for. Standing beside her, Hai also silently looked up at the brightly lit restaurant sign and let out a soft breath of relief. At this moment, his heart no longer carried the heavy pressure that had weighed on him before. Instead, he felt a deep sense of fulfillment knowing that all the efforts they had made throughout this journey had finally led to this result. More than just a newly opened restaurant, this place had become proof of the journey he and Tiểu San had overcome together through trust, support, and unwavering companionship. Hoaica's counting voice suddenly rang out, causing everyone to turn their eyes toward the camera. 1, 2, 3. At the exact moment the photo was taken, every single person wore a bright and genuine smile. The camera flash lit up the lively evening as if marking a hopeful new beginning for Tiểu San and Hai. Not only success in their careers, but also the start of a truly peaceful and happy home surrounded by the people they loved most. Laughter continued to echo outside the restaurant as everyone stayed behind chatting happily together. In the middle of that warm atmosphere, Tiểu San gently leaned against Hai's shoulder and looked around with eyes filled with happiness. After everything, the two of them could finally step forward together into a new chapter filled with hope and belief for the future ahead. Stay tuned for the next episode to discover the upcoming developments of the story.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Hôm nay thì mình đưa tới video về câu chuyện tình yêu của Tiểu San và Hải. Như mọi người cũng đã biết thì Tiểu San và Hải đang có ý định cùng nhau mở một chiếc nhà hàng. Thì cả hai đã quyết định là sẽ đi thuê lại tài khoản. Mình xin nói thuê lại nhà hàng thì Hải đã quyết định mua thuê lại nhà hàng kia. Thì bây giờ cả hai đã bắt đầu là khai trương. Thì hôm nay có rất là nhiều người đến để có thể chúc mừng. Bây giờ mình đang tìm một cái tài khoản ấy mà mình không tìm được nên là mình đang phân vân quá mọi người ơi, không biết là nên làm sao đây để mình có thể hỗ trợ, để có thể viết nội dung tốt hơn. Mong rằng mọi người sẽ ủng hộ cho kênh của mình nhiều hơn nhé. Tạm biệt mọi người.